Memory loss is a term that many doctors use when someone faces severe brain trauma. Psychologists also argue that sometimes the brain blocks off painful memories as a way of dealing with them. Hello, quick recaps here. Today I'll explain a 2021 South Korean mystery thriller film called Forgotten. Beware, this video contains spoilers. Soo-jin is a young and beautiful woman who has suffered a brain injury from a life-threatening incident. She is at a hospital where the doctor is checking her out. The doctor asks her if she recognizes a man standing by her side, but she does not. The man, Ji-hoon, is her husband, and while he is sad that his wife cannot remember him, he's happy that she's alive. As the days go on, Soo-jin slowly recovers, gaining stability and passing her physical wellness check. Ji-hoon is always by her side, taking care of her, dressing her, and even keeping her company. He tells her tiny details of her life, careful not to overwhelm her. Soon Soo-jin is allowed to go home. Ji-hoon is given instructions on how to care for his wife, and he writes something down for Soo-jin to remember. Soo-jin is disappointed to learn that she is an orphan instead of the billionaire's daughter she hoped she was. At this point, we see that Ji-hoon is really excited to bring his wife home. In the car drive home, Soo-jin reveals that she is scared of having to meet new people who she cannot recognize. Ji-hoon gives her simple advice, saying that if she encounters a woman who recognizes her, she should simply greet them back and act friendly. On the other hand, she should assume the men that wouldn't be rude. As they pull up to their apartment building, Ji-hoon asks Soo-jin to wait a few minutes before coming up. Ji-hoon has prepared a cake to celebrate Soo-jin's return home. Soo-jin gets into the apartment building and enters the elevator. It seems bad luck is following her since the elevator stops as the power goes off. Soo-jin cries out for help and she has a meltdown. Ji-hoon finds her unconscious and takes her to the new house. When Soo-jin comes to, she finds Ji-hoon looking at her, and he reveals he had a cake made to celebrate her homecoming. He is worried for his wife and wants to take her to the hospital, but she says she's fine. Soo-jin sees a picture on the wall and Ji-hoon asks her whether she remembers. The couple speaks a bit and Ji-hoon is disappointed to learn that Soo-jin still doesn't remember their life. However, she identifies the picture as a new house that the two would be living in, as they were planning to relocate to Canada. Soo-jin is curious as to who suggested the move, and Ji-hoon tells her that she wanted them to have new beginnings, so she suggested it, and he helped her with the legal requirements. The next day, Ji-hoon goes to the immigration office, and the officer wonders why he wants to immigrate. He has a good life in Korea as he has amassed some properties, and has gained many years of experience in the construction industry. I guess when it's time for new beginnings, you just gotta go along with it. Meanwhile, Soo-jin decides to go out for a walk. In the elevator, she sees a little girl whose bag is hanging messily on her shoulder. Soo-jin leans over and helps the girl fix it. As she touches the pretty child, she gets a vision of the young one being hit by a truck. Outside, the little girl is going to meet up with her brother, who is across the road. The girl's bag falls in the middle of the road, and Soo-jin sees a truck coming, bringing her premonition into life. Soo-jin rushes to save the girl, nearly getting herself killed if not for Ji-hoon, who was returning. Ji-hoon is angry and reprimands Soo-jin for being utterly reckless and risking her life. And didn't you see the little girl that she just saved? Ji-hoon clears Soo-jin's wounds before giving her medicine that makes her sleep. Ji-hoon stands over his wife, looking at her, and that atmosphere is pretty creepy. We see a shadowed figure dragging a heavy suitcase to a construction site. We are introduced to two detectives who are investigating stolen materials on site. The detectives meet a worker at the building site who explains that they would have no need of stealing materials as the site is bound to be demolished soon. Back to our protagonist. Soo-jin is reading on the roof when she sees the little girl. She approaches her wanting to talk about the other day and the accident, but the scared girl doesn't say anything. Stranger danger. Soo-jin touches the girl and gets another vision, where the girl's mother leaves the gas in her house on and lights it up, causing an explosion. This vision again comes to fruition before her eyes, so she calls her husband. Ji-hoon is worried that his wife is losing it, so he takes her back to the doctor. The doctor tells her that it's normal to have feelings of deja vu due to her memory loss. However, Soo-jin knows that she's not creating things up, so she says that no matter her explanation, the doctor will not believe her, so she sees no need of being there. As she exits the room, she sees the little siblings all patched up, but Ji-hoon cannot see anybody. Ji-hoon accuses his wife of having lost it, but he quickly recoils and takes her to the beach. The couple has a lovely time and Ji-hoon apologizes. He also says that he would always be by his wife's side. However, the reassurances do little to her mental state, and that night she has a horrifying nightmare of falling down a building after a man pushes her. The next day, she receives a visit from the two detectives. The men show her photos of bruises on her arms which might be a result of physical abuse from her husband. Soo-jin dismisses them, saying that if her husband was harming her, she would have reported him. It doesn't help that Soo-jin has no recollection whatsoever to help the detectives with their case. Before leaving, the detectives wonder why the house looks like a model house before saying her position in the wedding picture by the door is reversed. Disturbed, Soo-jin calls Ji-hoon, wanting to know more about him. But Ji-hoon tells her she would soon remember. Wonder what that's about. Later, Soo-jin sees a teenager in the lift and gets a vision of a man with a scar on his cheek, choking and harming the man. She follows the girl to warn her about the abuse, but is frightened to learn that the man is the girl's father. Soo-jin follows the teenager through the town but soon loses sight of her. She comes across a woman who seems relieved that she is alive. The woman takes a confused Soo-jin to her workplace at an art school. The woman also reveals that Soo-jin's husband was jealous and doubted her faithfulness. On her desk, Soo-jin finds her husband's business cards and goes to the office building. She finds the place empty and locked up. A security guard tells her that the office shut down 6 months ago after bankruptcy. When she gets home, she goes off on her husband, asking why he hid his financial status and Soo-jin's workplace. Ji-hoon reveals that he kept her from learning about her job since she injured her hands and could not draw anymore, so he was protecting her. He also tells her that he would love for her to get her memories back. Soo-jin reveals that she is worn out from all these things happening in her mind. Meanwhile, the detectives are examining CCTV footage and realize Ji-hoon might have been the guy carrying the suitcase from earlier. The detectives begin suspecting Soo-jin's story of having fallen while taking a hike and hitting her head. They question the same worker at the building site who says that Ji-hoon had been on the run from loan sharks. Soo-jin receives her belongings from the art academy and sees pictures of her with another man. Things continue to get weird when Soo-jin encounters the man with the scar, and the man strangles her after she threatens to report him. Ji-hoon comes back and gives Soo-jin some medicine to calm her. Soo-jin wakes up in the middle of the night and walks to the teenage girl's apartment. She hears the father abusing the girl before her door opens, and Ji-hoon walks out carrying a suitcase. In the parking lot, the security guard gives Ji-hoon the box with Soo-jin's things that she had left in the elevator. The next morning, Soo-jin asks Ji-hoon about his midnight escapade, but he denies it, saying he was laying by her side all night. Later, Soo-jin meets up with her female colleague who tells her that Soo-jin was on antidepressants because her husband was abusing her constantly. Unfortunately, she doesn't know about the man Soo-jin was having an affair with. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon buys flight tickets and prepares to leave the country in 2 days. Soo-jin goes to the police and accuses Ji-hoon of killing the teenage girl and stuffing her in a suitcase. Ji-hoon denies the allegations, and when they visit the girl's apartment, they find that no one has lived there in a long time. Ji-hoon is frustrated and instructs Soo-jin to take her pills and rest as he has some preparations. However, Soo-jin spits out the pills discreetly before leaving the apartment. She meets the man she was having an affair with being chased by goons. The man asks her to meet him at the construction site. Soo-jin has a vision of his death and warns her, but the man laughs it off. Meanwhile, the old worker at the construction site fesses up to the police, recounting events he witnessed at the construction site. Soo-jin calls the detective, saying a crime is about to be committed at the building site. She heads there and witnesses the real Ji-hoon, the man she was having an affair with, being killed by the imposter pretending to be her husband. The imposter sees her and chases after her, but the detectives arrive. However, they cannot find Ji-hoon's body, so they assume Soo-jin is lying. When they open the suitcase, the detectives find it open, but it has some materials that make the head detective dig around. They find Ji-hoon's body stuffed in the walls. The imposter reveals that he worked with Ji-hoon, and when the business failed, the two had an accident and he accidentally killed him. When asked who he is to Soo-jin, he says he is her adoptive brother. Soo-jin doesn't believe this and decides to investigate. He finds the little girl and learns she has the same name as her and her older brother. Finally, Soo-jin reveals that their adoptive father was assaulting her, so her adoptive brother killed him and hid the body. Soo-jin's brother reveals the whereabouts of the body. Thinking it's all over, Soo-jin goes to her apartment, but is shocked when the real Ji-hoon enters, revealing he is alive. She calls the detectives discreetly. Ji-hoon tells her that he had killed the loan shark and buried his body in cement. However, he found travel pictures of Soo-jin and his brother and started attacking her, doubting her sibling relationship. Her brother arrives and knocks Ji-hoon over, causing him to be buried in cement. Soo-jin feels her brother has sacrificed too much for her, so she jumped off the building. Ji-hoon sets the apartment on fire before leaving. He encounters Sujin's brother who stabs and attacks the detectives, but he is soon overpowered. Sujin shares final moments with her bleeding brother before he pushes himself onto the fire to save her life. Sujin is heartbroken by her brother's death. The detective gives her an interview with her brother at the immigration office. He reveals how he made a promise to protect Sujin, who wanted to start a new life in Canada, and hopes that it is fulfilled. A traumatic story with a sweet ending. That is recalled for you guys. But wait. Have you heard of the story of the woman who gained psychokinetic powers due to drug use? She becomes the most knowledgeable woman in the world with abilities of mind control, time travel, space travel, and matter control, all while being chased by a group of ruthless Chinese men. The twist is that the men want their drugs back, dead or alive. Will she make it to safety? Check out Lucy. Also, subscribe to this channel for more recaps of your favorite movies. See you next time, and take care.